Welcome to Not Just Money with your hosts, Doretta and Lee. This isn't your typical podcast about finances. It's a podcast about all the money conversations we aren't having, sometimes not even with ourselves. Join us on this journey of hard truths, lived experience, and the wisdom that comes from both. Because money is never just about money.
Hey Lee, how's the visit with the in-laws? Looks good? You glad to be back in the city?
Actually, I'm still here.
Oh,
Back to the city on Sunday.
it's you.
Oh, I'll be home soon.
Okay. Well, wherever you are, have you started noticing all the back-to-school sales pitches yet? My feeds are full of them.
I've been seeing them since school broke out for the summer, actually. Also, equally weird, the amount of Halloween stuff that's everywhere. It's oddly uncomfortable. I go into a store to get some crafts, and I'm greeted by an overblown witch's head. It's kind of unnerving.
I'm starting to wonder if my algorithms are getting a bit twisted just because of my research patterns. I asked my daughter, who has three kids who are age 6 to 13, she said she's not seeing back to school ads, just mom influencers with their ideas for lunch boxes. But she said she doesn't really shop back to school sales.
That's probably why she's not getting fed those things. The algorithms knows, right? Better than we do. So then I wonder though, if we extrapolate here, are buying patterns shifting?
I don't think so. At least not by the numbers. For many retailers, the back to school season is actually the second most important shopping season of the year behind Christmas. According to the Retail Council of Canada and that consumer research firm Cattle, the Canadian K to 12 back to school market is worth more than $4.5 billion a year, driven by about 6 million K to 12 students and
Yikes.
families
That's
spend,
huge.
you ready for this? An average of $600 to $750 per child when electronics are included. I couldn't
Wow.
find any data specifically on the post-secondary student market, but Canada has about 1.5 million university students, another 6 or 700,000 college students. So that actually makes post-secondary students one of Canada's largest consumer groups every August and September.
Yeah, I have two thoughts here. The first is it can't just all be stuff. I mean, do they put in classes, courses, things as part of back to school? Because I cannot imagine spending $600 on backpacks and pencils.
I think the thing there is, and again, it's what happens when you do averages, right? Because they're
Right,
including
right.
technology. So
Oh, right.
every kid who gets a computer, that goes in there, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's fair. Okay. And then the second thought I had is I would think that post-secondary spending would be even higher. I know you don't have the numbers, but especially if they're going away for school, I mean, you need way more stuff. Do we know how much of that is online versus bricks and mortar? As I shop in this sleepy town that I'm in, I have noticed a lot of families doing back to school shopping in real life.
I could not find any official dollar figure about online shopping for back to school, and I looked pretty hard. But
Interesting.
we do know though that it's significant and it's growing. So, according again to the Retail Council of Canada and Cattle is this Canadian consumer insights and market research company. I'm starting to
Mhm.
see their data come up fairly often now.
Mhm.
Online shopping is now part of the process for most Canadians, whether they're just researching it or whether they're buying some or all of the stuff online. But 75% of Canadians shopping for back to school expect to buy at least some items online, but 79% expect to shop in store as well. So basically, what we're seeing is that most families are using an all channel approach rather than choosing one or the other.
Yeah, but $4.5 billion? That really surprises me. I mean, that must be the biggest sale after Christmas or holiday time spending. I'm kind of surprised. I, How come?
Yeah, I
Why
think
am I surprised?
yeah, it gets people shopping. I think that's what it is. New beginnings gets people going again. And it's a
Uh,
retail domino effect. And it goes from pencils and notebooks across clothing, electronics, furniture, groceries, office supplies, sporting goods. It goes on and on and on. Retailers call it basket building. And they love back to school shoppers because back to school shoppers tend to buy lots of stuff on a single trip. I don't know whether you've noticed that and you're watching people shopping where you are right now, but they may set out to buy necessities rather than luxuries, but that
mhm.
shopping basket just grows. And suddenly they're buying for the whole family at the same time, not just for the students. And then you add in a bunch of impulse items as well, especially if they've saved, and I'm air quoting,
Uh-huh.
saved on the necessities.
Ah, yes, mental arithmetic and permission to buy more with all that money you think you have saved.
Exactly. So you might walk in intending to buy some notebooks and leave with children's clothing, shoes, lunch supplies, a laptop, headphones, toiletries, snacks, and household items.
Okay, I get the basket building in bricks and mortar stores. We see it in spades in malls and big box stores, especially in the checkout lines where retailers fill it with all that easy to grab, impulse, junky stuff. But how about online? Isn't that harder to do?
Nope. Online retailers are absolutely adapting bricks and mortar basket building strategies, and they're creating some of their own. And for them, it's the power of personalizing. They can actually use your browsing behavior, your purchase history, what's already in your cart in real time to target you for really specific ads and offerings. So, for example, you buy a laptop and then you get the helpful recommendation that students buying this laptop also purchased these headphones.
Feels super helpful, and I guess really designed to increase basket size. Hey, look, I'm not immune. I always look. I like to see what is being recommended because I sometimes feel it's a little bit like FOMO. Like, what do others know that I don't?
Ever buy? Do you grow your basket?
Not really. Um, you know me. I'm pretty careful with what I buy. If I'm shopping in a bricks and mortar store, generally, if I see something quote unquote on sale, it's something that I've been thinking that I needed to replace, but just refuse to pay full price for. And then online, I'll generally save it to say, "Hey, that's kinda cool and interesting," but it's not as if I set out to buy all this extra 100 pieces of Play-Doh putty or whatever the case may be. Like, you just get served all sorts of stuff when you're a mom.
Right. Okay. Well, another favorite trick of online retailers to grow the basket, things like free shipping thresholds, ads about frequently brought together, like we just said, and surrounding items with 5-star ratings and testimonials.
You stick a backpack in your shopping cart, and you'll see ads for lunch boxes, water bottles, whatever. Because now the algorithm knows, right? They're not just random recommendations, people. They're based on millions of previous shopping baskets and purchasing patterns. Research on product recommendation systems shows that recommendations measurably increase average order size. And of course, we know from behavioral economics the effect of saving, and we've all done it, the shipping charge increasing total spending.
Absolutely. Another common strategy is bundling. So instead of selling a backpack, calculator, and notebook separately, they'll offer a back to school starter bundle.
Bricks and mortar stores do that too,
Yeah, they do. They're easy, they're perceived as better value, even if they aren't.
especially if there's items in the bundle you don't want. Do the math, people. An extra $2 is still $2.
There's also a strategy emerging that's kind of related to bundling, but it's taking it a step further and basically treating your shopping cart as a project and shopping as being more about a life event than stuff.
Give me an example?
So, a good back to school example would be the everything you need for residence list. They don't offer
Mm,
you towels, a coffee maker, and a desk lamp. They offer you the everything you need for residence life milestone checklist. And it's really effective, especially with first year university students who are buying not only school supplies, but the essentials for their first independent home. And here's the thing, there are genuine deals to be had in the back to school sales cycle. There really are, and not just for students. So, why don't we talk about how this particular sales cycle works and how you can make it work for you?
Okay, but pro tip, we say this all the time, so I'm sorry if this is like the seventh time you've heard this, but it always bears repeating. Shopping sales is not saving money. It's getting the most value for the money you're spending, but you're still spending money. The only way to save money is not to spend it. Sorry, friends.
Absolutely. And listen, we know this sounds like semantic hair splitting, but I promise you it is not. It's a really important distinction. I mean, for our dear listeners, how often have you bought something because it was a good deal? How many times have you bought something for, say, $100 and felt that you saved $100 because it was marked 50% off?
Pretty much all of us have done that at some point. Even us. Check out our spending hacks episodes to hear about our own spending fails.
But it's not a good reason to buy, or it's not the right reason to buy.
And yeah, I mean, 50% discount sounds enormous. You'd be crazy not to buy it at that price. It'll never be that cheap again. Blah, blah, blah. We call BS, right? Your bank account doesn't care about percentages, it only notices dollars. Buying something for $100 instead of $200 still makes you $100 poorer.
Exactly. And if you want to explore that more deeply, all the psychology that retailers use to make you shop the sales, like anchoring, creating urgency, loss aversion, mental accounting, the Diderot effect, go back and listen to
Uh,
our episode on spending. I think it's episodes 11 and 12, like we said. There was so much, we had to do a two-parter.
and that was pretty fun. So with school supplies, that would be like getting your kid a new pencil case because the zipper is broken. And before you know it, you've bought them all new pencil crayons, erasers, pens, pencils, backpack.
Exactly. But as I said, there are some genuine sales. Let's call them value pricing opportunities that can be had in the back to school sales, and some strategies that you can use to make the most of them while limiting unnecessary spending.
Bring them on.
Okay, so first, let's look at what the sales cycle typically looks like because it's actually quite short and intense as sales cycles go.
I guess that makes sense. I mean, it's only 2 months from the time one school year ends and the next begins, or maybe even shorter, depending on where you go to school.
Mhm.
And I gotta say, I've been seeing not just the online pitches, but the back to school signage in shops is pretty intense right now.
Yeah. August is the peak shopping season for back to school. So that's when advertising reaches its maximum intensity. It actually starts pretty gently in June when retailers quietly start clearing out spring, early summer inventory and quietly bringing in the fall merchandise. And apparently, there are people who always shop for school supplies in July because that's when the best selection is available, if that matters to you.
Oh, come on. No judgment here. It can matter to you and to your child. Favorite cartoon characters can make everything super fun. Joy matters.
Fair. And pro tip for my daughter, she with the three kids, her youngest is a 6 year old who is crazy about Stitch. But you know what? A couple of sheets of stickers does the job. Same backpack, same lunchbox, same water bottle, plain notebooks, pencils. Just bedazzled with new stickers that delight and amaze.
Noted. Good tip.
Yeah. So, okay, August is the heavy buying period. By the end of August, you're into panic buying.
I mean, really? This never made sense to me. Why would it be life and death that you're in panic mode? We all know that by the time school starts in September, the school stuff is on clearance. That's the perfect time to buy, if you had to buy.
Great. There's a deadline, and retailers exploit that. Deadlines have a major psychological impact. So, back to school, that school start date, That's
Mm.
that creates this psychological barrier that people want to get it all done before that
Or that
date.
sense of urgency, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what they're playing with. But I agree that waiting till September is actually a great time to buy, especially if you're looking to stock up on the things that really are at their best price point in that lead up to back to school, even if you're not a student or shopping for a student.
So, what are the real deals then?
Okay, we'll start out pretty much what you'd expect: notebooks, binders, pens, pencils.
Right, all the craft supplies. For sure, I'm stocking up on things like crayons, colored pencils, glue.
I confess, I bought another journal the other day.
Of course you did. Question is, will you use it?
Well, I also bought some silly cute little pens with kittens on the pen cap.
You
I
didn't.
did.
Who are you? But wait. You know you're still avoiding the question.
Joy matters. You said so yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I I want to say something about who the marketing and advertising for back to school is pitched at and how the retail psychology works. So, who it's mostly pitched at, and this is really interesting. Traditionally, the pitches have been to moms because moms are still the decision makers. But more and more,
Mm-hmm.
the advertising is including both parents, even though in real life, it's moms doing most of the work.
Of course it is. But I take offense, even though it's true. Yes, I tend to pick up all the things, new lunch bags, shoes, clothes, whatever. But like your spouse does other things.
Research shows that moms are the principal decision makers for back to school stuff, especially for younger children, though dads are starting to play a bigger role, especially for sports equipment, technology, and bigger purchases. Think older kids off to university. Not a lot of Canadian data that I could find. Better US data. Their moms are doing 70 to 80% of the back to school purchasing. And honestly, I expect it's pretty much the same here. But the fact that retailers are really starting to pay attention to the growing role of fathers and are pushing them in the advertising, I think that's really interesting. You'll see more and more family shopping imagery.
Yeah, well, so far, and this is a survey of one, I have only seen moms in stores.
There's a method to the expansion of the advertising strategy. Ads used to be all about the mom, and the dad was either absent or comic relief. But now you get a lot of families shopping together, comparing options, shopping online as a group, combining shopping with lunch or other outings, because retailers love all that togetherness because it's all about growing the basket.
Mm,
The
hmm.
more family members are involved, the more the average basket grows. So you may have come for notebooks, new shoes, and lunch boxes for the kids. Then somebody notices a sale on shoes, and someone else sees the perfect backpack that somehow morphs from a want to a need, and on and on and on, and the cart is just getting bigger and bigger.
Well, that's big box store strategy for you.
The other day I was going up in the elevator with one of my neighbors. He'd just been to Costco. He called it his favorite $250 store.
Only $250? He must not be buying for a big household. It can be way more for families. But I read some stuff on household decision making a while ago that even with that increasing participation, it's still mothers who are more likely to manage what economists calls the mental load or cognitive labor of family life. Remembering stuff like the teacher supply list, shoe size, what still works, all of that. It's not just the shopping, it's the planning. And I can totally attest to this.
I was talking to my daughter about it. The planning is definitely just as much on her as it was on me, as it was on my own mother. And
Mm.
she is a super planner. I mean, she starts right after the last day of school in June. She basically pre preps everything the weekend after the last day of school, empties all the backpacks, cleans them, checks all the supplies, tosses out whatever's broken or worn, and then puts all of the reusable supplies back into a crate for each child. So everything's all ready for September. She makes a list of what she needs for the next school year, picks it up, or orders it online during her regular shopping. She told me she doesn't shop back to school sales per se, but, and this is interesting, when she did have to buy a new lunchbox for one of the kids, she bought one recommended by a mom influencer.
Huh. Interesting. Now, first of all, I aspire to be that organized. I am nowhere near that level of sophistication. The most I do is check if her clothes are all too small when I switch over her wardrobe for the season. But the mom influencer, interesting. I mean, brands love them, and the research shows that they are generally trusted more than traditional advertisements. I mean, it's one thing for an ad to say, "This is a great backpack," but when a mom influencer says, "My 3 kids have used these backpacks for 2 years and they still look great," that feels a lot more like advice from a friend, even when it's sponsored. And remember our episode on how influencers make money.
Yeah, absolutely. So, how are you going to handle back to school shopping this year? I mean, little girl's going into grade 1 next month.
Yeah, don't remind me. You know me, I balk at the forced purchasing, but I am a sucker for sales. I don't plan back to school sales or holiday sales for that matter. My daughter will tell me what she wants, and sometimes we will go together, and other times I'll pick it up for her. She outgrew her sandals this summer and she wanted jelly shoes. So we got that. When I was browsing, because we know I am in the countryside right now and there's not a lot to do, I saw a lunchbox on sale. Now, she had two before, but one started peeling in the wrong places. I think Grandma accidentally put it in the dishwasher. So I picked it up. It's really what I see that we need and is not going to cost me a kidney. But I have to buy what I know my daughter will like. Otherwise, she won't use it. So luckily, I pay attention.
The kidfluencer. That's really important. Children rarely control the budget, but they have a big influence on choice, especially with things like backpacks and lunchboxes, clothes, shoes, all that kind of stuff. And dear God, licensed characters and brands. And to be honest, I don't think that's really new. I mean, I got to pick out my own new school shoes and clothes, even back in the dark ages.
Pester power, even with custom chisels.
That's a thing, pester power. Not the chisel. I'm not that old.
Tee.
Marketers call it purchase influence, but I like pester power better.
Mm.
Parents might think they're making the final decision, but the kids are often shaping what's going into the cart.
And of course, that influence increases as the kid gets older. It's pretty common for parents to be making most of the decisions for, elementary school kids. Then by middle school, kids have a lot of input into their clothing and accessories. By high school, parents are probably setting the budget, but teens are choosing most of their own clothes and technology. I mean, we all know that. We probably all live through it. And the psychology behind it, though, I think is really interesting. I mean, for kids, it's about expressing identity through clothing, backpacks, or school gear. For parents, especially mothers who often carry much of the planning responsibility, it's about preparing your kid for success. Like it's your emotional responsibility to make sure your kid starts the school year with the right stuff so they feel confident. And you probably also want to look good as a mom. Um, and you also see the subtle and sometimes not so subtle changes in the marketing when it's geared towards kids. And I find that very interesting.
It is interesting in terms of the shopping psychology. I mean, when you think about it, back to school shopping is different from a lot of other kinds of shopping because the purchaser and the user and the influencers are all different. So the purchaser is generally the parent, but the user is the child, and the influencers, I mean, the child is influencing the parent, but there's also the child's friends, teachers, social media. It's actually really complicated, which is one of the reasons marketers invest really heavily in trying to understand the dynamic of family decision making.
Okay, but let's take a look at what's actually being sold and at what price. Because there is a sales cycle here, and it's worth paying attention to. Knowing how it works will help you spend your dollars more wisely.
Okay. So, like we said, back to school sales cycle pretty much condensed in a 2 month period. July for best selection, August for price, late August for desperation, and September, kids already in the discount bin to make room for Halloween.
These days, it's more like room for Christmas by then.
You're probably not wrong. But for back to school retailers, remember it's about growing the basket. They know people come in for the necessities. So it's a very common strategy to discount those necessities, even to offer them as loss leaders, hoping that once you're in the door, your basket will fill up with higher margin items while you're there. But you can use those loss leader strategies to your advantage. Even if you don't have
Mm,
kids, even if you're not a
hmm
student, back to school season can still be one of the best times of the year to save money. Just ignore the giant pencil and cartoon backpacks. Focus on the basics.
I mean, unless giant pencils are your thing. We're not here to judge that. Uh, it's a good time to stock up on home office supplies, I think is what you're trying to say, right? This is often the cheapest time of year to buy notebooks and journals, printer paper, pens, markers, desk organizers, mailing supplies, all that stuff. And like you mentioned, they're pretty much loss leaders right now or going out the door at a very thin profit margin. And so if you can hold on until they hit clearance at the end of September, even better. Now, you're probably not going to get the first choice of colors and things like that, but at some point, do you really care? And remember, retailers are discounting these things to get you in the door, hoping you're there for all kinds of other things you might buy as well. Kind of back to school adjacent, we'll say, and for the whole family. Ooh, you should go get more journals that you'll never use at the end of September.
That's mean.
But so true. And it will save you a bundle. Maybe not in desk space, but
Okay, you know the home office thing though, that can be a bit of a theme. So if your work from home space is the corner of the dining room table, you might actually find some good opportunities to upgrade things like office chairs, desks, monitors, keyboards, desk lamps. Also storage and organizational stuff. We are not advocating lifestyle creep here, but if you've identified the need for improved comfort and productivity, this might be a good time to buy.
there are also good deals to be had on children's clothing and shoes, backpacks, dorm finishings, small appliances, and basic laptops with the education deals, but probably not premium electronics. Apparently, for those, you're better off to wait until Black Friday and Cyber Monday around US Thanksgiving or even Boxing Day. But for the basics, competition can be pretty fierce, especially among the big box retailers.
Also be a really good time to focus on clothing essentials: jeans, t-shirts, socks, underwear. That's what my feeds are full of, and I admit I've been holding off on some purchases waiting for these particular sales.
And they
Of
know.
course they do. And again, like we said, it can also be a good opportunity for larger backpacks, not just for back to school, but they're great as carry-on luggage, day packs, gym bags, all that kind of stuff. I mean, apparently August is the best selection month for that kind of thing.
And remember, there's also the older back to school set, young people heading off to post secondary education. Dorm season creates its own little sales storms. Discounts on small appliances like coffee makers and kettles and mini everything from vacuums and microwaves to air fryers. Even if you're not furnishing a dorm room, these can be useful replacements or additions at home.
Yeah, late August is also the sweet spot for buying travel stuff, interestingly, because
Mm.
there are great overlaps with back to school, like packing cubes, reusable water bottles, lunch containers, insulated mugs, portable chargers. And oddly, it's a really good time to stock up on stuff like toothpaste and shampoo. Don't overbuy, but sales prices can help you trim your grocery bill between now and Christmas.
Maybe you can even buy things on sale for Christmas gifts. Okay. Anyways, that's a pretty comprehensive look at what the deals are and where to focus on them. But I want to get back to the kids for a minute. Because you know what? If you are going to embark on a back to school shopping expedition as a family, It can be a huge opportunity to teach your kids about financial literacy. We are still a money podcast. Think about it. It has a deadline, a budget. Depending on the age of your kids, there's peer pressure and emotional decisions.
Not to mention advertising everywhere. Okay, so where would you begin?
Where we always start, the difference between needs and wants. So before you leave the house, make two lists together. The lesson isn't that wants are bad, it's that they're optional. Financial confidence begins with recognizing the difference, and then, depending on their age, give them a budget. It could be to buy something special, or it could be for the entire trip, with the necessities coming out first. The goal is to show them that by not buying or spending less on one item, they can choose to spend more elsewhere, or even better, save the difference.
Really important lesson. I mean, it's amazing how fast kids learn that every purchase has essentially an opportunity cost. Expensive sneakers might mean fewer accessories. They learn more from that than from a parent just saying no. It's just a more powerful lesson.
It's so true. Then, age dependent again, get them to compare prices and ask them questions like, why is this backpack twice the price? Will it last twice as long? Are we paying for quality or for a logo? Is there another store that has it cheaper?
That's also a really great opportunity to talk about all the advertising. I mean, explore stores like a bit of a detective. Talk about the sales strategies that you see playing out in the aisles, bundling, eye level displays, limited time only. Actually, kids really enjoy that.
You're gamifying it, right? It becomes a game. Explore with them how sales works and explain how everything on sale isn't automatically a bargain. Ask the question, would we buy this if it weren't on sale? If the answer is no, the discount hasn't saved money. It's just made the spending more tempting. One of the most valuable money lessons is learning that the biggest savings often come from not buying something you don't need.
Yeah. And here's a lesson that may seem a little bit counterintuitive. If your kid is determined to spend some part of their budget on something expensive, a novelty item, whatever, that you're pretty sure is just going to disappoint them, let them do it. We learn from mistakes. It's best to let them make it when the stakes are really small.
And in my case, keep reminding them every time they want to make a similar purchase later. Really grind their gears a bit. I do that with my daughter all the time because I'll be like, oh, remember when you bought that? Oh, yes, you remember, right? And you never played with it again. You got to reinforce the message too. I think that's also a critical component. But I think the most important thing to keep in mind is that you want your kids to learn that money is a tool for making thoughtful decisions. It's not a scorecard for keeping up with everyone else. If they leave the store understanding that every dollar has a job and every purchase means saying no to something else, they've learned something way more important than how to find a bargain. And we did a whole episode about talking to your kids about money and especially how to start. Episode 7, if you're interested.
Yeah, that is a lot about back to school.
I really didn't think this episode would be as long as it is. Good for us.
Right. 3 key learnings for today.
Number one, back to school is the second biggest sales time for some retailers, and they are banking on shoppers setting out for necessities and filling their shopping baskets, real or digital, with add ons. It's important to know what you really need, what a good price really is, and exercise all your best spending habits to make good purchasing decisions.
2, the sales cycle does generally offer some good prices for things like home office and craft supplies, children's clothes, small appliances, and toiletries, even if you're not a student.
Finally, back to school shopping can present a really great opportunity for teaching your kids about money.
So that's us for today. If you got any words of wisdom on back to school shopping, if you'd like to share, why don't you drop us a line or 10 at notjustmoneypodcast@gmail.com.
Good talk!
You've been listening to Not Just Money with Doretta and Lee. Click on the show's description for links to resources related to today's conversation. Our aim is to share sources that provide objective information that can help you make informed financial decisions. Please rate and review our show. If you'd like to get in touch with us, email us at notjustmoneypodcast@gmail.com. If you'd like to be featured on the show, you can send us your questions and comments by a written email, audio file, or video file. Please include your name and city. This show is produced and edited by Lee, with original music by Leo Zhang cello and artwork by John Tu. Now for some legalese. Please note that the views expressed by our hosts and guests are theirs alone and should not be viewed as financial advice. This podcast is intended to be entertainment and educational in nature. Please seek additional professional support or information before acting on any podcast information. As always, good talk.